Hi everybody, this is Bill Soroka, founder of NotaryCoach.com and the Sign and Thrive Notary Training Course and Community. Today we are talking about really the 3 steps to really help you stay present during your signings. This staying present is extremely important. It's also, it can be difficult to teach, so it's up to you and us to master staying present during our signings. And there's 2 main reasons that you're going to want to do this. First, when you are present during a signing, just meaning that you're there and you're aware, you're going to cut down on errors and mistakes. The second reason is that you're going to be able to connect with that signer and anybody who's there at the appointment with you on a much deeper level. And remember, when it comes down to it in this business, this is a relationship business. So anytime you get an opportunity to connect with people on a deeper level, it's going to serve you, your clients, the signers, everybody in the industry so much better. So how do you create presence, or how do you stay present in a signing? I'm going to share with you some of the techniques that I used that really changed everything. So first, you want to increase your confidence level by increasing your competence level. So what that means is forever be the student. Always be learning. Always grow and expand yourself in your business. If there's some aspect of this business that makes you uncomfortable, or your stomach flips because you're terrified you're going to get this certain kind of appointment, maybe it's a power of attorney, or maybe it's a reverse mortgage, or a HELOC, or whatever it might be, just having that fear there diminishes your confidence level. So increase your competence. Take that on. Learn what those documents are. Learn what these appointments are. Take your skill building seriously. Overcome that fear by just taking it on and learning what it is that you're afraid of. And that's one of the beautiful things about our business. We might go 10 years, 20 years without ever seeing a type of document, or we're probably going to see the exact document that we're terrified of because we keep obsessing about it. So increase your competence in that area. Your confidence is going to go up. When your confidence goes up in the appointment, you're going to relax a little bit and you're going to be able to focus on the signer a lot more. The second thing that you want to do is systemize your signings. When I first started doing this business, I used to stress out over right before every signing. I would just get this knot in my stomach. It felt like I was going to get an ulcer. I just didn't know what the borrowers were going to ask me. I didn't want to look foolish. I didn't know what documents I was going to see. What if I see a document I don't recognize? And what I did is I finally just said, this is ridiculous. I'm either going to quit this business because it's too stressful, or I'm going to figure it out. And I figured it out. So the cool thing about what we do is, especially when it comes to loan signings, these documents and disclosures are regulated at a federal level. So all of those are mandatory disclosures. Every state can be different. Every lender can throw in their own version of documents. Title companies can throw in their own version of documents. But when it comes down to it, there's a consistency across the board. So what I did is I sat down and I said, all right, this document does this. I created a little mini script about every single one of those documents, and then I taught myself, okay, even if it's weird or whatever, everything I need to know about that document is in that document. And a lot of it is right at the top. It's in bold letters. It says the name of the document. First couple of sentences might say what it is, and I can kind of adapt my script as I go. Do this and your life will change. Your whole business will change. So that you want to do is create 3 different routines. So I have a routine that I do every time before a signing. So if possible, I like to review the documents just to make sure there's nothing weird and fluky in there. We don't always get the opportunity to do that in our business, right? Sometimes documents come like as you're walking out the door. You don't have that luxury of reviewing documents, but still, if I have time, I will sit down and take the time. The other thing that I do is that I plan my route. I plan backup route. I make sure that I show up on time. I'm usually 15 to 30 minutes early to an appointment. Again, that's not always possible, right? Especially if we're back-to-back appointments, but I like to give myself time to relax a little bit. So I'm not stressed and frazzled when I'm knocking on the door of the signer. What I do then in that time period, if I get there 5 minutes early or 15 minutes early, that gives me time to really center myself. And you're going to do that with breathing. Take 10 deep breaths before you walk up to that door, or while you're walking up to that door, whatever your time schedule allows. Take 10 deep breaths. I mean, in, out, 10 of those. And it kind of brings you into the present moment that way. The other thing that I started implementing a couple of years ago that was life-changing for me as well is I would set up words of intention before each and every signing. So as I'm walking up to the door, I'm taking a look at their names and make sure that I get their names right. That's a stressor for me. I want to make sure I say the right name and a name in the first place. But then I'm also thinking, how do I want to show up to the signing? I want to be authentic, I want to be connected, and I want to be fun. That's my shtick, right? That's who I want to be at these signings. Now, fun's not always appropriate, so if it's not appropriate for the situation, don't use that one. But come up with your own words. If you're brand new, you might come up with detailed, engaged, professional, loving, supportive, friendly, whatever those words are for you. Come up with 3 that really kind of tap into the vision that you have for yourself in this role. And remind yourself of that continuously throughout the day before each and every mobile notary and loan signing appointment. This is how I want to be. This helps remind you. That brings you in to the present moment and helps align yourself with your overall vision so you can show up that way. Does it work every time? Of course not. Nothing works every time, but this is a great way to start training your brain into the present moment. Now, that's the before signing routine. Now, during the signing routine, again, we want a little bit of a system, so I do the same thing every time. I start every signing the same. I'm asking for ID. I get the script of what I'm doing. It'll take me just a couple minutes to do the IDs here. And then after that, we'll get started. I'm setting expectations. I'm communicating. And then we roll into the signing appointment as well. Everything's the same. I've got the script down, so every document is just going to be the same. I start with the same documents every time and they roll through. There's little less surprises when we do it this way. And then at the end, of course, I am checking the documents. So that way, that is like basically my second check, because I'm checking as they're signing. I'm making sure that it looks like it's signed, dated, and initialed correctly. At the end of the signing, I'm checking the documents again. I do that every time, so then it becomes habit and I don't have to stress about it. What we want to do is try to take our conscious thinking out of this as much as possible so we can focus on what's important, which is the relationship and the details. And then part 3 is having a routine for after your signing. So I do the same 4 things every single signing. I check the documents again when I get to the vehicle, or sometimes I'll swing around the Starbucks or a restaurant or something around the corner and check the documents again. That's the 3rd time I'm checking them. Then I'm going to send a thank you card or a congratulations card to the signers. I might send a thank you card to the escrow officer or the signing company if it's appropriate. And then I'm going to send an invoice for my services if it's appropriate, and that's the way the relationship is with my client. And then I'm going to either upload or securely send IDs based on whatever the policy is for the client that hired me. Now, more and more, we're seeing less and less of that. They don't want us to transmit that secure information. So if you don't have to do that, then you just leave that part off, and you only have 3 things that you're going to do after a signing appointment. And maybe your routine's going to be a little bit different, just based on your clients or based on your personal preferences. But whatever it is, systemize it. Get that thing down so you're not stressing out, because when you're thinking about what you have to do afterwards, or if there's something weird, or when am I going to send the invoice, or how much am I going to invoice this for? If you're thinking about that during your signing appointments, your customer is going to feel it. In fact, I would venture to say that 90%, maybe even more, signing agents show up like that. They don't have systems in place. They haven't put the routines in place. So whenever they're sitting there, they're not really there. They're either stressing out because they don't recognize the documents, or they're worried about their next signing, or they're still thinking about their last signing. So they're not even here. And that's why we see as many errors as we do. Sometimes it's real basic stuff too. Maybe it's signing the deed, initialing the deed of trust on that last page. A lot of these mistakes and errors can be cured by just staying in the present moment. And I'm not exempt from these types of errors too. You know, sometimes I get in there and I get a little carried away with the conversation, so I lose presence because I'm engaged in something or I'm thinking about something else, and I make misses too. That's why I have a quadruple check policy. But we can drastically reduce the errors if we just stay present. Now, the third strategy we want to integrate in this, and the part of the reason that we're doing this, is when you systemize things, you have your routines for everything. What that allows you to do is to stay focused on the signer. You know, a lot of new signing agents, when they come into this, they give 80% of their attention to the documents. I mean, they're just head down in the documents. They're just so worried about missing something. They haven't prepared appropriately. They don't know what their script is. They're like I was in my first couple of years. You know, I was just so stressed that I didn't know I wasn't going to know something, and I didn't prepare. I didn't have a script. But when we do that, when we reverse that from 80% of the paper to 20% of the people, and we reverse that to 80% of your attention on the people and 20% on the paper, your entire business will change. The dynamics of your people changes. You enjoy things more. And what you learn is when you make the time to connect with the signers on that level, it doesn't really matter what's in these documents. You can pause the signing and just say, you know what, guys, this lender's doing something a little different. I don't recognize this document. Would you mind if I just read it real quick to make sure it is what I think it is? If you have connected and built that rapport with the signers, you can do anything you want. It just relieves that pressure. They're going to be all on board. It's going to be this camaraderie thing. Oh yeah, this lender has been doing things differently. I don't recognize it. And you just connect on a much different level. And that takes a lot of the pressure off of you. You know, we walk in there and we think, oh my gosh, I have to be the expert. I have to know every single thing about every single thing. And that's not what we do in our role. Our job is not to know everything about everything, but we tend to take that on. And if we just take a minute to flip that, make the 80-20 connection with the signer, everything starts to change. And you're going to start to enjoy your signings a lot more. I mean, I thought I loved it before. When I started doing this and just connecting with people on a different level, letting them know I'm here, looking them in the eye, slowing my pace if I have to, taking the time to read the document on that level changed everything. And it changed it for the signers too. I mean, imagine if you're refinancing your house and the notary shows up and doesn't even look you in the eye, sweat dripping down on the paper. They're just so nervous they're going to miss something, and there's no sense of humor, no lightness to this at all, because they're so stressed out that they forgot that there's other people in the room experiencing this situation as well. If you can reverse that, your whole business will change. So that is the importance of staying present in your signings. When you do all of this, when you start systemizing and you got a routine and you're connecting with people, your errors go down, your customer service satisfaction goes way up. And believe it or not, guys, they do actually talk about this. They talk about it to their loan officer. They talk about it to their closing agent. That works its way up. And you're going to find that you start doing more business. They're going to give you more signings. They're like, I want to work with this one. I mean, nobody ever raves about the notary, but this guy's getting rave reviews. It's also going to increase your volume and your revenue because you'll get more signings, but when you systemize anything, it starts to shrink the amount of time and the energy that you have to put into it, so you can actually do more if you want to. So if you've got more offerings, you can do more signings in a day because you've got a system in place. And then you're not worried about having to go home by 5 because you got 3 hours of paperwork to do because you haven't stayed up on it. That's where the importance of your systems come in. All right, so I hope that I didn't overwhelm you with all that information. That's what I put into place, what I implemented, and it seemed to work really well for me. I hope it helps you as well.